All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, here we are for episode 5 of Tell Me a Story with Tom Daly and the Doctor of History, Sean McCarthy. So today what we're going to talk about is the royal visits to our little part of the world. And so I'm just thinking, Sean, when you were growing up, did you ever have some relatives or whoever, friends, that whenever they came to visit, they wanted something?
I suppose, sure.
Okay.
I think that everybody has that experience, sure.
Yeah, I have this fond memory of at my grandparents' place, my grandmother looking out the window, and I was like, oh, so-and-so was coming. And it was some of her children, actually.
Okay.
And I won't say which ones, because any family is watching this, you can guess which of the 12 it might have been. And I remember her response was just, Jesus, Mary and Joseph, what do they want? So anyway, these royal visits, I feel like the royals, they always wanted something when they came here. They want to drag you into a war or screw your daughter or something. So we're going to go down a rabbit hole today and see what we can come up with.
I guess so, yeah.
All right.
As we very often do. That's
All
it.
right, Sean,
that rabbit hole gets darker every time we go down it. But anyway.
Oh, yeah. Here we go. Cheers, my friend. Wow, that is strong as hell.
Brewed in the woods.
My grandmother also first gave me tea at the age of 3. So the caffeine addiction started good and young. But we are drinking King Cole tea today, which is our local tea here in New Brunswick. And we are open for sponsorships if anybody's watching this, like always. So you're a big tea drinker too, eh?
Yeah, I have a cup every day. Yeah.
I started with tea. I like tea with desserts, actually, or something like that. But in the morning, I need those 6 to 8 cups of coffee just to feel something every single day, just to keep moving. Right. So anyway, back to the matter at hand. Creepy Dave, we're rolling, right?
We are rolling.
Oh, good. So tell me a story. We are going to talk about the royals and all their visits to New Brunswick, this little province we live in, and why they came here, what shenanigans they got up to, and how it affected the people here.
Yeah, real or imagined. And we're going to start with the imagined ones.
Oh, yeah. Take it away.
So we'll start with a visit that may have happened and may not have happened. We're not really sure. So I think it was in 2014 when I was kind of doing the summer where I was half of the time at Beaubears Island and half of the time at McDonald Farm, that I first heard this story that the Duke of Kent, which would be Edward the Duke of Kent, that would be Queen Victoria's father, visited McDonald Farm. So I never heard that before. Or have you ever tell of visits by,
No.
Anyway.
No, not heard about that one. Yeah, to McDonald Farm, for those who don't know, big old stone house built way back in the early 1800s, was it not? Yeah. Alexander McDonald squatted on the land till he got it and was a militia guy for the War of 1812, was it not? He was.
Yeah, and I think he had served in the American Revolution.
He did. He did serve in the American Revolution. So, all right. So, plausible place they would go if he was, he's long gone by that point, but still.
So in between his service in the American Revolution and the War of 1812, in 1799, they say that he went there and he stayed there. Now, at that time, the Duke of Kent apparently was the military commander for British North America, and so was stationed, was kind of basing himself out of Halifax and wanted to kind of improve communication between Halifax and Montreal. So came to Miramichi, and apparently met with Alexander MacDonald. Again, as you say, it's plausible. He may have been. He was in the general area of the Maritimes, and as you say, Alexander was a military man. But we have no evidence to say that it did happen. But we have no evidence to say that it didn't either. So that's. I often wonder too if this story. Because I've heard different versions as well that at around this same time, George III that a representative of George III was here to negotiate with the First Nations. And I often wonder if that was, if there's any link there between his being here, or especially in that area where we know that in Escanobitich and Burnt Church there were a lot of that was kind of a traditional meeting place. So maybe he was in the area also to kind of reinforce ties there too. Who knows?
Yeah, it's plausible, I guess. People want to keep it on the down low, so it's not really written about, and interesting.
So. From this, we also get another story about Prince Edward being here in the community. Now, Prince Edward had himself a mistress, as pretty much all of his brothers did too. George III, known for his monogamy, but none of his sons really kind of followed him in that I'm aware of. So, had a mistress from France, traveled with him everywhere, and apparently now there's a local story that says that they had some children and they fostered them all off, and one of them ended up in the rapids.
Could you imagine that?
Yeah, was hiding there.
She really got the short end of the stick in life. If she could have been living in Paris, but nope.
I guess not. Yeah. So they fostered her out, So there's a story also, that there are some local folks that are, kind of descended secretly from the Duke of Kent. And I was in a play in 2014. That's it. That very same year.
You certainly were.
Yeah.
And now my mom is quite the royalist, wouldn't you say? She's a card-carrying member of the Monarchists League of Canada.
Yes.
And I, too, am a lifetime member, I do believe.
Okay.
Yeah, that and the Miraculous Medal. She put me in both of those for life. And so
I can support one of those.
she was always big into the history of the royals and just a big fan. So I remember when you were doing this play, she actually called me, and I was in Vancouver at the time, and she was very concerned. And the reason why she was concerned was because, of course, you're the doctor of history, you're working on your PhD, and she said to me that this is so historically inaccurate. Does Sean know this? It might cost him his degree.
Yes, indeed. Think of it had, Tom. That would have been like 3 years where I wouldn't have had to go through all of the nonsense that I had to go through to get the degree. But
the dates don't add up. That's the big thing about this play, unless she's having children very, very late in life.
That's right. Yeah, to cover a 200-year period, really. I mean, you have to do it in about 2 or 3 generations, and it's very difficult.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm calling bullshit on this story, but I guess it is more interesting to say you got knocked up by a prince as opposed to the stable boy or your first cousin or whatever. Right. So we'll leave that story. We'll leave that one in the dust and talk about the stories that we do know for sure.
Yeah.
The royals that came here.
For sure.
All right. So what would the next one be?
So the next one I think that we know of is Queen Victoria's daughter, Princess Louise, came here in 1878. I think. Her husband became the Governor General, and so they visited here very briefly on their way to Ottawa.
Okay.
So it was not a real big visit. Probably not the biggest. Probably the next biggest one would probably be in '39, I would think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and that's the big one. That's the one we know the most about. So why don't we jump right into that one?
Sure.
And
I lied. There's also a story which I also believe is nonsense, that the Prince of Wales, so the future Edward VII, also visited McDonald Farm. He was in New Brunswick in 1860, but was spending most of his time in St. John, Fredericton, kind of that the South, where basically most people spend their time when they come to visit.
Yeah,
here.
that hasn't changed.
That's right.
But that is interesting. It's McDonald Farm over and over and over again. So what's at McDonald Farm? If it is true and they're keeping the story on the down low, that would be pretty interesting. Like, what's drawing the royals there? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, a certain stone, perhaps.
Maybe so. Yeah, maybe there's. But
you know about this. Why don't you tell us, Sean? Doctor of history.
This is not historically, of any consequence. No, when I was working there was one of the lads that was working in the barn, and he apparently found this millstone, and he found this millstone to be very special, I guess.
It has erotic powers.
That's what he claimed. He said that people see this stone in the orgasm.
Yeah.
I saw the stone I was
felt
fine.
nothing.
That's it. Yeah,
Felt
that's it.
nothing.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. Maybe I'm just
Felt
yeah.
nothing but Catholic guilt and Irish rage.
That's right. That's right. But that's
yeah.
pretty ubiquitous. I don't think the stone had any effect on that.
And for those of you watching and are wondering what a millstone is, some new age girl with dreadlocks is watching right now and going to try to buy one. It's not.
Would recommend it.
It's not a crystal. It's not a turquoise or jade or anything like that. No, it's a big old stone used for grinding oats, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it.
A
Yeah,
mill stone. A stone used at a mill. You got that?
Exactly. That's it. Yeah, its powers are strictly in crushing things, not in yeah.
Like your hopes and dreams.
There you go. That's right. Yes. But yeah, so there is that story. I don't really buy it myself. That he made it up this far because he was, again, he's traveling incognito. He's probably got a pretty strict schedule. The Duke of Kent has a little bit of leeway. He's not the heir to the throne, but the heir to the throne probably has no leeway in what he's doing. So he's probably being moved right along. But yeah, so his sister, as I say, visits in the 1870s. And I think his brother may pass through because he was the Governor General between 1911 and 1916. But again, no major visits until 1939.
All right, so 1939, what a year that was. And that's the year that World War II broke out. If there's any Americans watching this, it actually did start in 1939. So yeah, the Royals come here. When is that?
No, I was going to say, of course, then, if you look at, in Asia, it started in 37 or maybe even 31.
Okay. There you go, Dr. Fitz. Interesting. World War II started in 31 in Asia.
Well, the Sino-Japanese War, right? Which eventually becomes part of...
fault all along. There we go.
So, there you go.
It's all their fault. Learn something new every day.
Happy to be the vessel through which that happens, Tom. Wish I could do it more.
All right. What a moment. So, okay, back to 1939. The Royals come here. When is this? What time of year?
I think it was I'm not entirely sure. I think it was in the summer.
It's in the summer, so it's just before.
Yeah, just before.
It starts. All right, so the Royals come here, and this is King George VI and Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother. Yeah, so they come here to little old New Brunswick, and they came here because they needed support. They needed soldiers. I think they needed.
Well, I mean, things were going that way, for sure. You know, after Munich and everything else. So yeah, it's clear that there's a war coming, and so
we need to show we care so that they'll care enough to come over and fight for us. All right, so first stop in New Brunswick, is it Fredericton, or where do they?
I don't know. I mean, no, I'm thinking they were here before they went to Fredericton because they stopped.
Okay, they traveled. Okay,
they traveled along the road there and they stopped in Doketown.
They did.
Right? So they were on their way to Fredericton that time.
That's right. So I guess. Well, since we're talking about Doketown now too, there's that was quite a big event. Doketown's a tiny little place, just dead center between Miramichi and Fredericton, and lots of support there for the Royals. There's still to this day. In Little Doketown, they have a chair, I know, at the Doak House, which they were quite fond of. That one of the Queen, actually, the Queen at the time, Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, she would have sat in it. Yeah. And at the Jilk's house, which was, I guess, like a lodging house back in those days, probably hotel, bed and breakfast sort of thing, or something like that. A big house there in Doketown where people stopped and they had a meal there, and there's actually pictures of this. It looks really cool. There's proof. They're walking out of that house, and so that was in Doketown. Shout out to them. And then they move on, of course, to Miramichi, which was the town of Newcastle.
I think they would have been the other way around. I think they were here first, and then they went to Fredericton. They would have been Doketown. Miramichi, Doketown.
Yeah, okay, that's right. That's right. So so back to Miramichi now. Newcastle's the one I'm thinking of. That's where. They name everything after them, don't they?
They do. Yeah. So we've got the King George Highway. We've got Queen Elizabeth Park. Mm-hmm. I think Elizabeth Street, which we're on right now, is for their daughter, but that comes later, probably in subsequent visits that we'll be speaking about. But yeah, they do get a fair few things named after them for sure.
Mm-hmm. So they're really showing support to them. Mm-hmm. And do we know any remarks? Do we have any quotes or anything about how did the king and queen at the time feel about this place?
I don't have any quotes from them, although I do know there was a lad, Nelson Rob McDonald. You remember him? He used to work at the school. He was there.
Okay.
And he had some, I think, a flag and a couple of other things that were from that visit at his home. I remember he brought them to. to Beaubears at one time when I was working there to kind of show some memorabilia from that time.
Interesting. Yeah. All right. So 1939, and then the next royal visit. What are we at?
So
the one we were debating, wasn't it? But the Queen Elizabeth II?
Yeah. Well, I guess, yeah. To Miramichi for sure, yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Is there another one in New Brunswick before that? Or?
Well, 59, she was in New Brunswick in 59. Along with our local Lieutenant Governor, J. Leonard O'Brien.
Oh, yeah. J. Leonard O'Brien. Let's talk about that guy. That's a guy who was very fond of the royalty. He was the Lieutenant Governor of this province for an extended period of time, was he not? He was so good at what he did. The Queen begged him to stay as Lieutenant Governor for an extra period of time.
Yep. 7 years.
7 years.
58 to 65.
And he dressed like this. He dressed in very flashy imperial garb. He had no time for a common three-piece suit. That was for losers. No, he dressed like in what Sean is wearing there. Only with real gold. Real silks.
Yeah. Brought back a lot of that ceremony to the office that had kind of been lacking. That, again, not a big smiler in pictures.
No.
I think we've got about 3 pictures of him smiling, and one of those is in 1959 when he's standing right next to Queen Elizabeth.
There you go.
Yeah.
I like Leonard O'Brien. People complain that I don't smile enough either. I have this resting bitch face, but I have a very strong jawline. That's it, yeah. It's my grandmother, another great quote from her when a doctor said, "Whatever you do, don't smile today." And she's like, "Doctor, I have nothing to smile about." And
yes, indeed.
Yeah. So anyway, Leonard O'Brien, interesting guy. Very, coalfish, people would say. Not charismatic like Lord Beaverbrook, who we talk about from time to time, who was also a big royalist and, contemporary of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, the late Queen.
Probably why she came here in 1959, because of course she dined at UNB, where of course she was the chancellor.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Of course, that would be it. Because, they owe a lot to that guy.
Sure, absolutely they do.
All right, interesting stuff. So, and then there's nothing until 1977, we believe, when the Queen's Silver Jubilee. Okay, so this one, the Queen comes through Miramichi, and when we were growing up, remember there was actually a picture at Ben's to prove that. And I think that was like the only picture I had seen too, was the Queen driving by Ben's. A former hamburger stand that used to exist, which has since been torn down.
More's the pity.
Most of it, yeah. People never got over it, did they?
They never did.
No, there's a lot of things Chatham never got over, but that's one of the big ones. Yeah.
But yeah, also I think that's that same one. I've seen pictures where she visited Birchall's Mill.
Okay.
So she was in Nelson as well at that time. It was. There's an apocryphal story that she went into Ben's and had a hamburger, but
no photo proof.
No photo proof.
No.
Just driving by. So maybe she got takeout.
Imagine that. Imagine if we gave the Queen like the proper Miramichi. She stays at the Black Horse. She stays at the Miramichi Hotel.
Yeah.
She eats at Ben's. She
That's
goes
right.
to the mill. That's pretty damn close. You know what I mean? If you want
That's
the 70s Miramichi experience, that's...
Kicks off a dance at the Hooper after it's over,
Oh, God.
Goes to the Zodiac afterward.
That's the best one. Oh, the Zodiac.
The tabloid press have a field day, her and Prince Philip, getting down to the Zodiac in Chatham.
Wow. Interesting. I love that one of our sketchier clubs was called after a serial killer, too, which was roaming around at the exact same time. And we're going to hashtag Zodiac in this one just to annoy people. It's so funny, like how I guess the Queen's been everywhere in the world at this point. The royals, that's part of the job, isn't it, to go to? But I can only imagine how they felt going to, or maybe they liked it. I've heard the Queen was very down to earth and actually liked to get away from the hierarchy and the aristocracy and the celebrities and all these. So maybe she actually did like to meet some people that were
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah. Sure.
Interesting. All right, next up.
Yeah, I think now we kind of move into the visits in our lifetime. So it was sometime, my dates on this are not good, but at some time in the 90s, I think Prince Charles was here, wasn't he, to open up Eagle Forest Products?
Yes. Yeah, I was there. Okay. So not at Eagle Forest Products, but I was at the community college when he visited there. NBCC, the college in Chatham, Miramichi. What would that have? I really think it was 1996 because I was in grade 6 at the time. Mm-hmm. And how I remember this is because, I went to school that morning, and in the afternoon, as soon as school was out, my mom rushed me from Nelson School to Chatham to see him, and we saw him and whatnot or whatever. And I remember because the next day, the teacher, a bunch of the girls had missed class because they wanted to go and get their hair done, and stuff like this to look really good. And if you haven't noticed already, I don't really care how our looks. That hasn't changed. But anyway, and the teacher was mad at the students for missing school, which is ironic that I didn't stay home from school because usually I was looking for any reason to skip. So, But anyway, so we saw him, Charles got out, shook some hands, did his thing or whatever, and went into the college. I guess if they were opening the whole thing then, or a special department or what it was. But he was definitely here because I did see him with my own eyes as a kid, and yeah. And
so I was not there.
No. That's so weird. You think you would be because you're the history guy. You know what I mean?
I don't know.
I was there.
Dave was there. Oh, creepy Dave was there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember it very well?
Oh yeah, he didn't shake my hand.
Oh God, that's so funny. Maybe you reminded him with your red hair of a certain son, which may or may not be his. Just saying. That riding instructor, he might have taught Diana how to ride more than horses. Yeah. Google him. Yeah.
So legitimacy of Prince Harry aside.
Yes.
So would the next visit then be the Golden Jubilee?
The Golden Jubilee, as far as I know, that's the only thing I remember was the Queen came, and my family, my mom and dad and myself went to Moncton to see the Queen, and we got there good and early, and I remember her. It was, outside the Delta Hotel. I'm not sure what she was doing there. If she was, just eating there or some sort of conference or whatever. But we waited in line, for some hours. And we were really, really close at that time because I remember the big car pulling up and we're right by the gate. And this flag that's in my hand is from that time period. This is funny. Should I tell this story? I'll go, hell with it. Anyway, we're at the next to the railing, and there's this old war bride we were chatting to, or whatever, and she's been there before we were, and we were there a good 2 or 3 hours ahead of time, and she really wants to see the Queen, and so the big car pulls up with the crown on the license plate, and the Queen gets out, and the Queen, dressed in her lilac dress or whatever, and the Queen's a little woman. She was not big at all. She was very small, and our member of Parliament at the time was, I think it was member of Parliament, maybe it was MLA, I don't know, Claudette Bradshaw was and she's a larger woman, you could say. So anyway, she moves in to shake hands with the Queen and gives her flowers and kind of rubs her shoulder or whatever. So at this point, she's blocking out the Queen completely. And I'll never forget this old war bride who we were talking to, just with her camera. She's like, "Will you move, you fat cunt?" It was just... with that accent, it was hilarious.
No bullshit, just
no bullshit. I love that, Joe. Right to the point. Yeah, exactly, appreciate her. Yep. Good times. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, that's she knows what she wants.
She knows what she wants. She wanted a picture of the Queen.
Exactly.
She wanted to get it.
Not a picture of somebody else's arse. So
there you go. Yeah. Anyway, so Queen goes in there for maybe an hour or something like that, and comes on out and carried on. But I know security was tight. That was really tight. I remember in the RCMP and stuff like that. So it felt like she couldn't really shake hands with as much people, but she did make an effort, I know, to wave to everybody, and actually stopped and did for an extended period of time. And kept on to somewhere else, I guess, in the province probably after that. Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
So and you weren't at that one either?
No.
Strange. And this is the guy who wrote his PhD on The Royals.
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly interested in kind of the idea of monarchy, but I guess the institution
a
doesn't.
monarchist, like
I wouldn't say. No,
I am.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it.
It's me and Barry McKenzie. The opposite ends of that spectrum.
Hey, you're on the spectrum, though. I'm off the spectrum.
We're on a lot of spectrums. This guy's definitely on the spectrum.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, were you at that one, Dave? In 2002, I guess it was? Do you remember? No. You blew it with Charles, and that was it.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So, who do you think? Predictions. Do you think William's coming here? Or Charles?
It's possible.
Yeah.
I don't know. Charles' health is not great.
It's not great. No, he's getting up there in years or whatever, and then they're not even putting the guy on the money, I don't think. They're trying to hold out and hope he dies so they don't have to spend the money to print him on it, I guess. But, yeah, it's interesting. I think William will definitely, I think he's going to do some globe trotting. When,
Probably.
Yeah.
Now, if I could, Tom, I'd like to tie together a few themes that we've talked about today in another royal visit that saw us go. The theme of chairs, riding, eroticism. So when we went to Czechoslovakia,
yes.
Czech Republic, pardon me.
to Czechia now.
That's
It's
true.
changed
That's
again.
Right. That's right. That's right.
Because that's going to make Putin cry, changing the name to Czechia.
To Prague. We went to Prague.
And since most people don't know where this country is anyway, it's the country that Canada has lost the World Juniors to twice in a row. So think about that. The next time you're getting your kids up at 4 a.m. to go to hockey, they will lose. And they'll do worse than lose to Czech Republic. They'll lose to Latvia, too. You know how many people there is in Latvia? 1.8 million. You know how much they spend on hockey? Not a lot.
You gotta want it. That's it.
You gotta want it.
That's
You
it.
gotta want it. Support the arts, folks. Hockey's dead.
Yes, indeed. So we were in Prague for your bachelor party.
Yes.
And I saw really the only piece of royal memorabilia that I care anything about.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, that's it. We were at the Sex Museum.
The Sex Museum
Indeed.
in Prague.
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed.
Good times.
And there was a chair that I had read about for many years. Was the chair of King Edward VII, a luxury piece of furniture that allowed him to enjoy the presence of two women at once, without crushing either of them under his massive bulk.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
He was a very heavy man.
Oh, yeah. It had the handlebars where you could just hold onto it and just
exactly. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Lazy as hell.
Maximum pleasure with minimal effort.
Exactly. With the electro belt on because he was a weak man. So the story goes.
Oh, God. So, yeah, I do remember the stains on that thing, too. If you could take a black lug to that, God knows what is living in it.
Yes,
But,
indeed. That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
If the royal family ever goes, you know what I mean? There's probably enough genetic material on that chair to start it all over again.
Exactly. Starts all over again.
That's it.
When the apocalypse... could you imagine? They got to restart the bloodline instead of going to Germany like they normally do.
Of course.
They got this time you're going to Czech Republic.
That's it.
Scrape off the dried semen from Edward VII, and it all starts over again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, good times.
I bet you weren't expecting that the podcast was going to go here, huh?
Yeah, it was this guy that took us there.
Exactly.
You can't blame me this time.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, I got to keep my end up, right?
And you always
Like
do
Edward
that.
VII.
Oh, God.
There you go. That's it.
This was a fun one.
I mean, as compared to, a terrible conflict in Africa, the last one we did, anything was going to be much better, but, yeah.
You'll never know what you get with this show, folks.
You won't.
And so that's why it's extra important that you like, subscribe, share, watch, listen, do whatever to keep those stories out there, to grow our audience, and not just our audience. We want to grow the audience of our good friend, Creepy Dave. David Jardine, the man behind the camera, is also a fantastic artist. Indeed. He draws on coffee doodles. He takes simple coffee stains and turns them into these quirky, wild, weird works of art. And it's really something to check out. So check out David Jardine Coffee Doodles on YouTube and follow him over on Instagram and Facebook and all that good stuff.
Yes, indeed. Well, until next, we will see you next week. And all the best, Tom.
All right. Thank you, Sean.